I would say this wouldn't be so much of an upset if Dignitas won, because Dignitas also beat TSM at the beginning of the split.
Very fair. It would be a hell of a momentum push for Dignitas, though, going into these last couple weeks of the split and saying, hey, we're a contender. We belong in this playoff conversation. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I like these bans so far. I like that they're taking away, even though we're seeing this tank bonanza happen, the Syndra ban is still going over towards Bjergsen. This is the most banned champion against TSM, up there with LeBlanc as the second one. But by far and away, Bjergsen receives the most bans. You can see there, a red side LeBlanc ban, Zac, Caitlyn. These are the things we typically see banned on red side, and Team Dignitas are having none of that. They're saying Bjergsen, he's been picking his mid lane champion the second round of the draft phase constantly now. They're trying to shut that down.
Well, Rumble, Galio, LeBlanc, Syndra, those are your four so far. But remember that when you do make those focused, targeted bans, there's a lot of power picks in the meta that end up being left open instead.
I knew it. All right, so the Zac ban actually goes to TSM because right now, I think Maokai priority is so high, TSM and all the memes and stuff. But Zac, if Team Dignitas don't ban Zac, you probably take Maokai and they get Zac as in return. And now it's kind of like Maokai for free here is what I would assume would come through.
Maokai's up. Cho'Gath is up. Kallista's up. She's been very popular.
Yeah.
Hauntster's just going to go ahead and BM a little bit, hover the Yasuo to get the fans excited, and then switch over to something else.
I mean, it's TSM. It's got to be, right? It's a flex
Would
pick.
think.
It's a historical pick for Hauntster. He's wrecked on it multiple times in his career. But, oh, it's going to be the Thresh. All right, a playmaker for Biofrost.
Prioritizing that, Biofrost has shown himself to be a more than capable Thresh player.
It's actually super interesting because this Thresh, you can't have it be compared with the Callista, and it's something that's just a very dominant bottom lane here. But I just think Maokai priority is super high, and we're seeing all these champions kind of be in that same echelon.
Wonder if Team Dignitas will agree with you. They've got one more pick to go, and looks like that's what they decide to lock in. Callista and Mao picked up for this team.
Yeah. Not sure if that's a boo for the lack of TSM, but, you know, beat Maokai up against them. And I actually think that Kayn is a pretty good champion. Like, I was against it, and then I did more and more research on it. There's no champion really in the game that level 3 has that free range dash and also has a way to get through walls. Lee Sin is kind of like the other jungler that's up there, but the cooldown on like Kayn's Q is 7 seconds at level 1, which is insanely low compared to everything else in the game in terms of mobility.
TSM will decide to answer the enemy AD carry with an AD carry of their own, picking up double lifts. Tristana as pick number 2.
I think it's quite a good answer as well. And the Sejuani, yep, expect that to go through. Like this as a tank jungler here. It's not so much of a flex to top lane so much anymore because Sejuani's W just costs so much mana at all stages of the game, and it's the ability you max first. And it doesn't even do that much damage to minion waves. So that is most likely going over to Svenskeren. And we're looking at a hyper-scaling team comp so far. And we'll see here there. This is becoming such a big trend where you pick your mid laner third on red side and ban away some of the counters. So I expect Orianna to come through here, and they've already thrown Syndra and LeBlanc bans.
Well, the Orianna comes through as soon as you mention it. They will take that one off the table, prevent Bjergsen from being on that. So much focus towards this star player on TSM, trying to keep him out of the mix and make sure that Dignitas can succeed without him getting in the way.
And it's interesting as well because this means that, you know, even though it's a mid lane, it's a mid lane matchup where King sometimes beats Bjergsen when he gets the counter matchup, but they're picking it so early on. They might ban like Talia here as well to try and just force more things out from Bjergsen, and so they're going to push him down that tier list very heavily.
I swear we don't actually have an advanced feed of the games. Irena's actually just calling these one after the other in terms of the bans that are going to be happening. They do continue to target Bjergsen in the second part of the bans. Talia, that second one for Team Dignitas. Their final ban of this match, of this game, I should say.
Yeah.
And Fiora, the final ban for TSM.
It's funny because Fiora got nerfs on 7.14, but it's someday Fiora. It's very historically powerful. And the tank meta has made it so that even though Fiora got nerfed, I still put a lot of stock into her in players who have actually put the time in on her.
It's not one of those things that you just can pick it, anybody can do it, you just destroy the guy and outscale.
Exactly. If they're playing like Cho'Gath or something like that, I would play Fiora into that totally.
Oh, everything's so telegraphed, you can just automatically block it out as Dignitas decides to go with Blitzcrank. Hook versus Hook in the bottom lane.
And Adrian has just had such an incredible history as a player. I remember him back in Challenger, back when his name was Catrific Rules, and then we changed it to 10Q, and then he became Adrian eventually. This guy was like a Morgana, Thresh player, and then he got memed on by like only playing Soraka all the time and Janna because he was a 4-lane support. But I feel like Adrian is actually a very good player, very versatile, and can play all over the place. We think back to TIP, where he played Leona. He's always been kind of on the cutting edge of what the support meta is, and he's always been relevant, regardless of if the meta shifts. And sometimes he's been the reason that the meta shifts, like Soraka and then Aframu bringing it to MSI and whatnot.
Okay, Zyrene Xerath locked in for Bjergsen on the side of TSM, along with the Jarvan, but that's way less interesting. They actually pick Xerath.
This is actually a really kind of a blast from like 2 years ago. I remember talking to Jez's back when he was over here playing for Coast, and we were talking about this matchup of the Cassiopeia versus the Xerath, and he was under the opinion that the Cassiopeia would win and that the Xerath doesn't. And we argued back and forth on it, because Xerath outranges Cassiopeia at all stages of the game and can poke her down and keep her out of fights. Right. But Cassiopeia has kill pressure if the Xerath is kind of boosted and out of position at any point. Like, if you misstep once, Cassiopeia is able to kill you, but Xerath has all the tools to kind of navigate those situations.
I feel like you usually have kill pressure if your opponent is playing like he's boosted.
Yeah, but Cassiopeia is like a whole nother level where you really do have to.
Cassio will instantly punish the person. You take one step out of the way, just slightly boosted, and she'll get you.
Exactly. And this Graves here, another champion that I feel like can take advantage of bad positioning. Graves, I was kind of under the impression that he would come back into the meta a bit alongside Kha'Zix. People are talking about tank junglers left and right, but Graves with the Duskblade second, you get Storm Raider Surge as your mastery. Duskblade, when you buy at level 8, is 180 extra damage on that first attack, and that gives Graves the Storm Raider Surge to chase people down. So that's why we're seeing it here for Shrimp, who's always been a power farm jungler.
And when you look at the side of Team Dignitas, yeah, you have hard engage with a Maokai, but Twisted Advance doesn't have a huge cast range. He pretty much has to have a Righteous Glory to get close to Bjergsen's Xerath or make some kind of a flank, or Adrian has to hit a really good pull, because this team doesn't have these long-range initiation tools. They don't have a Sejuani and a Jarvan. If Bjergsen can play this right and the team can protect him, he might be able to do some serious artillery work on this pick.
Yeah, like I said, looking for scaling, looking for range. It's going to be hard. You have to go for that engage and make it work if you're Dignitas.
Here we go, on to Summoner's Rift for game number 1 between TSM and Dig in this best of 3. Side's just about to run out of the summoning platform here as some nice pings get thrown down by TSM for no real reason at all under the Dragon Pit. Want to see if they decide to do anything at level 1, though, especially with a hook champion on both teams. There's potential.
I feel like Blitzcrank is really good. I feel like the Sejuani level 1 is fine, but I definitely think Dignitas is going to look for something here with Someday able to set up saplings as well. Don't know if they saw them. They look like pings went through.
Bjergsen has not taken a skill yet, waiting to see if he needs the CC or not. Would obviously like to start out with the Arcano Pulse, but in a level 1, it's not the most useful thing compared to the others.
Actually going to check the vision on this and see if Bjergsen did see them or not. Actually, he did not see either of them. Bjergsen did not step up far enough. He actually missed out on Someday and Keen getting into the brush.
Both sides are going to be aware of what's happening now. Sven and Hans are walking up to Shrimp, but they each just eat a full Graves auto attack and have to back away. They do get the ward down on that Raptor Pit. Just for the extra information, you can see wards placed down by Dignitas on the TSM Raptor Pit as well as the red.
Yeah, and we'll see what Someday is doing. Someday actually did not give any of those big super leashes that Maokai is known for right now. He'll be able to get one sapling down if he takes it level 1. Does hurt your push in the lane slightly because you don't take the Bramble Smash. But he'll be able to assist with a single sapling if he chooses to. But no, it's going to be the Bramble Smash. So yeah, Someday caring about the lane a little bit here instead of getting the 400 extra damage from the E. But Graves, I feel like, just has such a great clear in general that's not going to be that much of a loss.
Right. Graves' clear has always been one of the safest, one of the fastest. The champion is incredibly adept at getting himself through the jungle with no risk, as long as you know how to properly do it.
And because of the wards that went down on the Raptor camp and also on the red buff of TSM, it's actually augmented the routes here since Garrett started on the top side with a melee champion to help him get his E early. And Keen is kind of doing what Faker does on Cassiopeia, and it was popularized a little while back, where you take Corrupting Potion level 1 and you just stand on the other side of the minions, because auto attacks draw minion aggro. Twin Fang does not, so you just constantly Twin Fang with the Corrupting Potion and zone them from the CS as much as you can. But Xerath can actually grab some of these, but he took the E level 1.
He's got some long-range abilities. He can throw those out, and he'll just sit back and wait as Keen pushes this wave up slowly now. Can't move himself any further forward and still get damage down onto Bjergsen until he throws that Noxious Blast down underneath the turret. Keen will be in control, at least during the early phases of this game. Bjergsen continuing to eat Noxious Blasts here and there.
Ooh. Just trade back and forth. We'll expect the rend. At some point. Nope.
Catching him off guard a little bit there as Shrimp moves into the enemy jungle. Walking around, seeing what maybe he could find. Might want to go over the wall here, drops the ward, sees his opponent on the Krugs, and as soon as that ward comes down, Sven instantly smites the big Krug, making sure it's secure.
Shrimp does see that the Raptors, the highest EXP camp, is currently up, so he's just going to take that away. I expect him to use Smite on the big one here and just try to get it very quickly. Yep, and leaves a baby one, so yeah. The Raptors are just the most experienced camp at level 1, and then you want them to respawn as fast as possible, so you try to do them early. But this is going to mean that Svenskaren's jungle is going to have a little bit less to kind of harvest during that early part of the game.
Trying to keep Sven behind any way that he can, but remember, on those tank junglers, Sven is always going to be useful as long as he can get a couple of levels on him. One camp will not slow him down to the point where he's going to be taking a serious hit in terms of his progression. Meanwhile, Doublelift and Biofrost in this bottom lane, keeping Adrian and Altec shoved back for now. And Tristana's one of these picks, Irene, that with Kalista being so popular these days, a lot of players, and not just in North America, but everywhere, have been saying, okay, if you pick Kalista, we're fine playing Tristan.
Yeah, you have a lot of range. You get a range advantage over her later. You're better at kind of killing squishies and even tanks, I would say. But the big thing for me in this matchup here is the fact that the Blitzcrank can hook the Tristana. Tristana can actually buffer rocket jump through it if you do it correctly. It's kind of like how Ezreal E, the Arcane Shift, works in terms of interaction with the rocket grab. And then Fresh Lantern is another way to kind of escape that. So there's multiple ways. You're going to get interrupted there. Babies.
Yeah, those poor little orphan Krugs. Two of them get left behind. Blitzcrank full finds its way onto Biofrost. Altec with a little damage on the back end of it, but
Shrimp looking for a gank top. This is the lane that he should be going towards because of the fact that there's just such easy gank assist. Having Maokai in the top lane is like a jungler's dream, where you have the W and then the Q is now a 99% slow for a quarter second. Hanser kind of reading that because Someday was walking so far forward. It's a little uncharacteristic of how he was playing just a moment before.
Shrimp level 4, Svenskeren level 3. You can see him maneuvering through his own jungle here. Just going to continue farming up, trying to make sure he's relevant as quickly as possible. Blitzcrank hook not finding its way onto Biofrost this time around, as Dignitas is off to a slight early gold lead based on farm alone, and most of that is what you're seeing in the mid lane.
Yeah, the mid lane 10 CS advantage for the Cassiopeia over the Xerath, just the bullying that he's able to do. And they pinched the champion pool of Bjergsen pretty heavily, right? Galio was banned by TSM, then Dignitas banned LeBlanc and also Syndra, and then Orianna Talia. So there were 5 champions that were taken down, and then the Cassiopeia picked away. So kind of, when you're in solo queue, somebody bans 7 champions, doesn't really happen, but you have to go to your 7th best champion or your 8th best champion. You hope you're really practiced on those, and Bjergsen's kind of one of those guys that you would expect to, because he plays so much League of Legends just in general, have at least something here that he was able to play. And this is a little unorthodox that the Xerath comes out here. It's the first time we're seeing it in North America. But obviously a reason for it. Biofrost taking one for Doublelift.
Making sure he
Doublelift
gets grabbed instead of Doublelift. But Doublelift just says, okay, thanks for that. I'll see you later, bud. Goes ahead and heads back to base. He is not going to have his back timing inconvenience.
Yeah, it's like, man, just eat the hook. Doesn't matter. Just freeze the wave. And I actually think it's good because now Biofrost can catch the minion wave. And I don't know if Doublelift will actually miss any of this CS here.
Truly a team player in Biofrost as Shrimp comes over the wall, and Svenskeren now has the opportunity to mount the counterattack. Shrimp goes back over with the flash, but the death sentence is down. I don't think it was worth it to steal that Krug. First blood for Sven.
And Shrimp has just been on top of counter jungling, and they eventually say, you know what, this guy's just been following me all game. People learn, they collapse, and you don't have priority in all of your lanes to do that. They don't have it on bottom here, and that's why Biofrost is able to collapse and Doublelift to just back for a BF sword, who's able to deal a little more damage than is what's expected here, and Shrimp goes down.
That was very, very unfortunate for Shrimp. Going in, trying to steal away, do what Graves can do, because you know he's so good at counter jungling and fighting in the jungle early on, but he just forgot that there was a lot of help nearby for Svenskeren.
Yeah, the fact that Doublelift did back to put him in a position to contest, and Shrimp, it looked like he was doing more than just trying to get the Krug there. He was trying to kill, he was trying to go forward. Keen dodges multiple ones. And I'm actually sitting here going, when's the last time we saw Xerath? Because it's been a while.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So for people who don't know, every rank of Xerath's ultimate actually gives him more charges on his ultimate. So he'll start with 3, and then he'll go up to 4, and then he'll go up to 5. So eventually, he just becomes that gigantic artillery and just keeps blasting people from a range.
And that ability is honestly so fun to watch. It's very similar to a Jhin ultimate, where you can have these huge sniper moments where a perfect read on your opponent.
Yeah.
I just turn a fight.
I just got really excited because I don't know if the technology was there with like the gigantic zoom outs that we're able to do in Observer now the last time that we saw Xerath. So now we might see, observers follow the whole bolt. Let's go. I'm ready for this.
Yeah. Or we could get the super camera that follows it on the level as it flies through the air in the replay afterwards. Or we could see Adrian look to make another pull on the Biofrost as Doublelift continues to farm. But right now, him and Altec are just content pushing the wave up. Yeah. Bilgewater Cutlass versus BF Sword, so some sustain versus the raw damage potential of Doublelift.
All right, so last time Xerath apparently was played was Summer Split last year, I believe. So now it's a year ago. So it's been a while.
Another good hook.
Yep. Adrian this time going for Biofrost because he just saw Doublelift able to buffer the rocket jump, which is the front-loaded cast time. You have to interrupt it after he casts it. You always do it on reaction. So you'll always get it off if you time it correctly.
Haunts are doing a good job dealing with Someday here in the top lane, and one reason why Jarvan came back into popularity up there, he's so effective versus some of these tanky picks. You shred their armor with your Q. You also always build Black Cleaver. It makes that tank stacking not that effective. Nice jump away from Double.
Yeah, like I said, it's front-loaded, so you can't interrupt the beginning of it. You interrupt the ending of it. So he does it wrong on reaction with the 0.25 second cast time. If it makes contact during that time, it doesn't give a damn and it just goes. So the only thing you have to do is do it on reaction to the sound and the pull, instead of if you do it too early, then that's what gets you. If you do it too late, you're actually probably fine.
Which seems very counterintuitive. You
Yeah.
would think that being more predictive with it would be more rewarding, but in reality, wait until you see the fist in the air. As long as you don't get grabbed before you ever press the button,
Exactly.
you're fine.
You got to stay calm, can't get too spooked, right? If he's running forward and just hits S or something, you're just like, oh, well, okay. And look at that. Last time he played it was versus Dignitas.
Throwback.
2015.
Throwback to a couple years ago. 2015 spring. Wow. Week 3. Adrian. Oh.
You hate to see it, and now it's going to go back on him. There's no fates called to save Adrian, so they have to fight here.
Ulti drop down.
Doesn't want to hit
Adrian
any walls.
does not want to touch the walls of the box. Doublelift still trying to finish this off. Buster shot comes through. Heal gets used. Bjergsen calls in the artillery strike. Adrian with the flash play, and now Bjerg is in some trouble and caught off in the side. Keen grabs the kill.
Double.
Adrian barely keeping himself alive, and Double will fall as well. Biofrost now with one more hit, and they deliver the damage. The double kill.
Excellently played there from Dignitas to collapse, and the execution was after the Blitzcrank hook that missed. On point. Everybody collapsed. They were there in time. They have the better skirmish, and they catch Bjergsen while he's ultiing.
And now you got one of the meanest tower pushes in the game, too.
And I love this from Adrian. Adrian has flash. He can flash out of this. He waits. He doesn't hit any of the thresh walls. He waits it out. That was so well played. And then the heal comes through. They baited him forward, and now Doublelift goes up. Adrian flashes to the side to avoid damage from the Sejuani ultimate, but they collapse on top of Bjergsen on the side, who is in his right of the arcane, trying to land some shots, and they get that final hit there. And this as well from Keen to cleanse is actually pretty heads-up play there.
Dignitas.
They got the turret, too.
Ecstatic about that. Turret first blood on top of the 3 kills means this team is now up 2,000 gold at 11 minutes in. 2 kills on that Cassiopeia that you want to scale if you want to be that big late-game damage source. It's all coming together.
Yeah, the late-game damage, and he's already got a tier and a catalyst, so we're expecting a Rod of Ages to come through here. 4 stacks on his Dark Seal. So Keen is at that point where he's got all his scaling items almost ready to go. He's just waiting on that Roa to come through. And so now this becomes very scary for TSM as they're trying to scale alongside the Cassio.
And Altec already has his Blade of the Ruin King done as well. Take note that it's health stack that always happens at the start of the game these days for your tanks and your bruisers. It's Black Cleaver, Titanic Hydra in the top lane. It's Cinderhulk in the jungle. That percent HP shred is deadly getting it that early.
And I wonder what Svenskaren's going to go for. They tried to look for the Smite there, but it's going to be a Callisto Rend and Smite on top of it.
As long as they time it right. Yep, we've seen these things go wrong.
Yeah, Shrimp didn't really have Smite there, so they just went for it there with the Rend. But yes, like you said, I'm interested in what Svenskeren goes for as his next item here after Cinderhulk. The common Sejuani build is to actually go for Warmog's second, but up against Blade of the Ruined King, I actually think that wouldn't be that great. But he's up against a lot of mixed damage here. There's a ton of damage that'll come through from the Cassiopeia, and you have to worry about the Blade of the Ruined King. Plus, Shrimp will get a Duskblade, I assume, here as his next item, unless he's going for a Black Cleaver, because nobody else on his team will really get that item. So kind of has his options here, but I definitely expect Duskblade with the current state that it's in, even after the hotfix.
I mean, it's so ridiculously powerful just having that extra burst, as well as the fact, I think that a lot of people look over, you get a free sweeper with it.
Yeah, free sweep. Like, this item is just kind of loaded in terms of everything. The bonus damage to get your Storm Raider Surge, the sweeper to make sure that you're, like, not spotted as frequently. And then also, there's, even on top of it, like, just the lethality in general got buffed. It's 18 lethality, right? And then I'll throw another thing there. The 99% slow for a quarter second actually means a lot for the kind of movement advantage that Graves will have over you. If he gets to flash and then hit you in the face and you react by flashing away, he's actually going to catch you because the slow plus his Storm Raider Surge will be able to follow up.
TSM still sitting in a spot where they're down a bit, but now Double Lift is going to check and find Someday here. Throws a couple auto attacks into him, but that's still Maokai. He's got a Ninja Tabby. He's tanky enough to deal with a Double Lift that still doesn't have a full item completed just yet. And you can see in Someday's inventory working on that Righteous Glory for item number 1. Exactly what we mentioned in Champion Select. If he wants to get onto this long-range backline of TSM, he's got to have a way to close that gap.
Yeah, Righteous Glory, very good item. Kind of got tuned to have some armor on it, so everybody's like really on top of buying that item now.
Feels like a combat item now. It used to sort of just feel like this weird sort of supporty, pseudo-tanky thing with health and mana, but now that it has real combat stats in it with armor and cooldowns, it just feels so much better to build.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a great item. Even with like the active being changed to like go off as soon as you make contact with somebody, it gives you less control of the item, but it allowed them to put a little more power in the passives and like just the stats of the item. Now looking at Shrimp's build, Death's Dance, I don't know where this is going, so I'm gonna stop guessing at this point. Throw out, he's building something.
He's got something in the works there, but now Biofrost, something in the hooks, top side, getting the hook onto Adrian. Drags it back a little bit, but with Shrimp up here, they won't take this any further. Oh, Keen stepping out of the way of the Arcana Pulse, dodging away from the stun as well. Over the wall comes Scarin. Keen now turning this around almost. Poncer walking away from the burning, still ticks. The Roots won't find their way onto him. Someday with the Righteous Glory. And Bjergsen is now on the run off the side. Scarin nearly going to be taken down. Flash over the wall. The damage from Shrimp will finish the deal.
Scarin got caught by the tail end there, the edge of the Maokai ultimate, and now they're going to be able to pick up 2 kills as well as go for this mid lane turret. TSM were trying to get something done. They were trying to go for the shooting a snake in a barrel strategy, put the Cataclysm down. Bjergsen can just throw all his abilities in there and hit Keen, but Keen turns around and buys enough time for himself there to survive, or to survive long enough to deal damage and get Hanser low enough that Someday just goes barreling forward.
An awesome turnaround from Team Dignitas, and not only did the fight go their way, but I love seeing a team be able to translate it into more as they get the turret, they're onto the Rift Herald,
they're going to turn here
onto Shrimp, Double Lift and Biofrost trying to fight this with Bjergsen, who gets the kill onto Shrimp. Someday now exhausted. Monster's made his way into this as Double Lift knocked up into the air, juggled around, Fate's called, all tech trying to throw his opponents off guard as Biofrost flashes up the wall. Double Lift as well. Scarin grabbing the kill onto Adrian as Keen finally makes his way into this one and TSM retreats.
Yeah, TSM gets some back though. They end up getting 2 kills there, evening up what had just happened previously. So TSM not out of this. Yeah, dodges the E. Then Sejuani ultimate goes wide as well, so Keen is able to retaliate in time. And this ultimate from Someday, it'll pick up speed and actually roots for longer, further it's gone. And then Altec actually...
fourth shot! Bjergsen from downtown!
The stun there from Scarin's Permafrost made it so it was super easy to land that last one. So really good synergy there. I'm actually liking that jungle mid combo a bit, because you slow the person down for the Xerath to land all those abilities, and then you just make it pretty easy for him. Kind of setting up this Xerath pick a little bit more than you would have thought in Champion Select.
Once he gets going too, you can see Morello Namicon completed for him, so their mana pool, better cooldowns, also has that healing reduction capability. This guy's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, and he was down in CS previously. He's actually up in CS now, has 1 more kill than the Cassiopeia. And actually, Keen turned his Catalyst into a Abyssal Mask.
Interesting.
That's a tank item.
Yeah.
That's 350 health, 300 mana, 55 magic resist, 10% cooldown. and nearby enemies take 10% more magic damage as well as the Roa or the Catalyst passive. So that has no AP on it, and that's kind of an item that you would expect like the Maokai to pick up for him.
Right, to help him get that multiplier.
I actually don't like that on the Cassiopeia. That just feels like he was getting a Negatron look. Like Banshee's Veil, I think, would be a great item in that scenario as well.
Well, he wanted to opt in for the tankier choice. He's still 2-1, so things are still okay for him, but not having that earlier damage spike on your Cassio could be detrimental to Dignitas as they go into the
I feel like if you wanted HP and mana, he would go for the Roa and scale up because he was in a good spot to do so. And he would get Banshee's Veil afterwards because Banshee's Veil I just think is such a potent item. And then if you had the shield on top of your cleanse, you become a very hard to catch Cassiopeia. But even then, it's like they're throwing Cataclysm at you, so you do need some durability, and that's why I thought the Roa would come through. Right here, we're seeing Battle Lines. Keen is kind of looking for the flank to make sure Bjergsen doesn't get a good setup, but they're going to turn on him here. Svenskeren has ulti. Are they stunning him back? Biofrost taking low. Keen barely getting himself away off to the side. Biofrost now having a 2 on the front line. Svenskeren is down, and Keen still somehow limping away from this fight. Haunter juggling around in between 4 and cannot dunk in time. A double kill for Altec. Yeah, someday. Oh, gonna dodge out there. The Rift Herald time. Is it time to return to the scene of the crime from what happened last time? I feel like Dignitas want to catch waves and go for that.
Rift Herald only alive for another 45 seconds or so if they want to go for it, they have to do it now.
Top turret, I think, is probably the easiest thing to go for. Shrimp might start up the Rift Herald himself. You can kind of get a good allocation here in terms of your lane assignments. But yeah, they try to turn on a Keen instead of fight that Dragon. The Dragon's already gone from the Glycerin. Good stun there on the sideways Svenskeren, and then the ultimate before you can get Monster to actually do much and cast the Cataclysm afterward. He gets rooted up, and then Someday is actually playing this Maokai fantastically well. I mean, Someday we know him for his tank play, but Maokai has always been a champion that he's been able to kind of bring out and play. So when it comes back into the meta, it's kind of like when Impact has Maokai back in the meta. It's just, it feels like it was a long time coming.
And one thing I want to point out, because we were curious about it earlier, second Blade of the Ruined King, now done on Dignitas. Shrimp went for that item number 2.
Okay.
Probably for the same reason we were talking about it on Altec. The health stacking on the front line for TSM, he wants to shred that.
Exactly, and you look at like Svenskeren's itemization, mostly magic resistance early besides the Ninja Tabi, and now you can do a lot of damage to Haunter, who doesn't have armor except now he finally does. And so everybody, like you said, health stacking. And also, I do feel like Blade of the Ruined King helps you with Storm Raider Surge as well with the active. Just give you a little extra damage right off the bat.
Now, heading into the mid-game, this is an area where you typically start to see mistakes from a lot of teams, especially those teams that aren't at the top of the standings, because of the fact that they'll get an early lead, and then it's going to be translating that into a win that becomes the difficulty for them. I want to see if Team Dignitas can take this early edge that they have with 2 extra kills and 2 extra turrets and 2 extra Drakes and turn that into a very fearsome mid-game offense against TSM. Or if TSM will be able to turtle up and use this range, keep themselves in a solid spot, and ultimately make the comeback later. Third turret goes the way of Dignitas. Gold difference at 20, average negative 625. This game plus 2,900.
I mean, Dignitas have kind of always had these up and down seasons. We think about back when they were like 1-7 last split, and then they went 7-1 in their next 8 games. I mean, now they've just replaced their bottom lane. Shrimp is now the starter, so he's no longer sharing like practice time. So you've got more focus now from Dignitas, and we'll start to see them start surging in the standings because of this. And I always feel like when you get that 5-man roster, like people talk about 10-man rosters a whole bunch, I feel like when you just settle on a solid 5 or possibly 6, that's when you start seeing big results come through over time. Like they talk about trusting the process. That's all about leaving the same people in, trusting even if they do poorly, that you can, you know, kind of refine them over time, learn from your mistakes, and just have that camaraderie. And when you have that roster nailed down like this, then it definitely helps you start seeing the process kick into action.
And all these roster swaps and changes and differentiations have just become such a big role in Summer Split 2017 across a multitude of teams. So seeing Dignitas make these changes and then find success, you would think that they're onto something here. Someday getting himself grabbed up by Biofrost, but Nobody wants to go in on the big tanky Maokai. Bramble Vest built on him too, so whenever anybody attacks him, remember, even just that baby version of the Thornmail still puts the Grievous Wounds on auto attack.
And now they're going to rush Baron. They have Callista, you have Graves, you have Cassiopeia. There is so much damage here, and also someday I expect him to throw out the ultimate here diagonally towards TSM who are approaching when they want to turn. There it goes.
Used as a zoning tool. Hook doesn't find his way in. Fight. Fate's Call comes out. Baron secured now. How can TSM try to fight this? Adrian taken low, but not dead just yet. Walks his way back. Doublelift grab the kill onto him as they move forward. Doublelift drops. Bjergsen will kite back as effectively as he can, but Someday is still chasing.
Someday has
a Biofrost off the side, but Someday is alone and oversteps his boundaries. It's a 2-for-1. TSM gets the edge in the fight, but Dignitas has Baron.
It was good from TSM on the back end to identify that Someday had messed up there. He was looking for a flash W onto Bjergsen because they had just killed Doublelift, but nobody else on Dignitas went the same route as him. Now they're going to pick up the bottom wave, but they got that Baron. So Dignitas, right now, I'm loving these calls from them. Like, this is the Dig Baron PogChamp, right? But hold on, Hanser.
Altec just hangs out.
He's actually alone, though.
Cliff there.
Yeah. Altec was actually alone, and Hanser was a bit scared there. Shrimp was looking to reinforce, but let's see this one more time. I love this from Dignitas. I think their composition is made for this, and then the roots come out. It's going to root 3 people. And then Bjergsen's going to set up, actually cancels after 1 because his positioning isn't great, but watch Doublelift here, steps forward to get the kill, turns right into the Cassiopeia ultimate. It's so hard to watch everything in these fights. But yeah, they place that ward there, and Hanser goes, wait a second, he's actually alone, and you can tell, even though Someday has itemized kind of mixed resistances at this point, it's still not enough right now because the Void Staff is there for Bjergsen.
57% Baron control versus 62%. Yeah, first and second. Both these teams placing so much priority on that objective and being able to control it so well. But it's Dignitas that still command the buff right now on 3 different members. The 2 without it are Someday and Adrian. Everybody else still capable of empowering those minions.
But I like how Adrian went forward, and you saw the synergy and the way that he plays support. He went forward, and even if he messes up, they're going to pull him out. And look at this, another Maokai ultimate across the back line.
Tier 2 still standing. They want to finish that one off. They're going to take this fight. Someday very, very low. Altec still staying alive. Hanser getting himself back, but now gets burned. The hook back onto Adrian. But the stun coming out from Kane will shut down Bjergsen as they continue to press the attack. And Doublelift and Biofrost now have to find some way out of it. Altec will not be able to chase down Double, but Svenskeren still hanging around, will not defend the Tier 3 either. 2 alive on the side of TSM for the next 20 seconds. Dignitas breaks open the base and wants the inhib as well.
Yeah, they're going to go after the inhib here. They'll most likely kill it, but also top lane's being shoved in by Someday. I love the way that he's playing this right now. The Maokai has been fantastic, but then you put on top of it that it's just the Someday mechanics and game knowledge where he's knowing where to be at what time and how to play it. He's shoving the top lane as everybody is pushing to the side, so he's going to get free room here, and then everybody else is going to have to come match this wave. Hanser will have to come top, Someday will back, they'll get this Ocean Break, and Dignitas are just out macroing TSM with the lead that they had early. This here, you see that the Sejuani ultimate lands on the Keen, so Keen backs up, but then they throw Adrian into Peel on the right side, and then right there, Someday got enough HP back from his passive, plus the fact he has Spirit Visage now, and this flash forward stun from Keen landing onto Bjergsen is just beautifully played. And then Altec almost, but I'm loving the mechanics here. Quick QSS to get out and continues the chase. If that didn't happen, then Doublelift is dead as well.
Dignitas now commands an 8,000 gold lead, 3 Drakes, 5 turrets, and 3 kills up over TSM. The team that everyone's currently looking at as the best in the North American LCS are the ones that Dignitas are very close to taking down in the first game. They've got 1 inhibitor down. Tier 2 still standing there on the top side as well as the bottom side. So Dignitas have either one of those lanes to choose from as to where they want to be pushing next, as no neutral objectives are up. So they'll continue trying to take over, push up, move up that vision line, and choke TSM out of the game.
Yeah, and since it's right now like an 8,000 gold lead, I'm looking at those Wheel of Fortune memes where you got to fill it in, and I'm looking at one that says like Maokai priority. It's like, where's the Maokai priority? What you're supposed to pick on blue side first when it's open? I would say the Maokai is so flexible, and they were able to pick the Graves very late, last pick for Dignitas, so they knew what top lane matchup they were going to have, and they knew what jungle matchup they would have as well. So I feel like Dignitas on red side got the better of the draft here, and really pushed Bjergsen onto the 7th tier champion for him, maybe even a little lower than that, with the specific matchup that he was looking for.
I Want to keep my eyes on what Dignitas does in this fight because they do not have Fate's Call ready to go. Someday gets himself pulled in. He's going to be the one who gets taken down first along with Sven. Tank for tank to start this fight off. Still four alive.
Their
Full
base
HP.
is going down. There's some super minions on that top Nexus turret, and it dies.
One Nexus turret down is the cost of that fight. Dignitas keeps TSM involved in this top lane long enough.
They see
to lose
Hanser.
that.
Yeah, when you see Hanser like that, you get to move forward. And now they'll get some damage onto this turret. And you look at TSM's comp. What's the engage right now? It's a hook. Oh, once again, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, you just do it on reaction, right? Do it when you hear the sound, and you'll get it every time.
Doublelift gets himself away from that one, which if he didn't do it on reaction, that would have been disaster for TSM. Likely would have ended up losing another lane in terms of inhibitor status. Bottom side, Hanser moving up to take those minions out as the gold lead gets itself closer and closer to 10,000. Gargoyle Stoneplate being worked on now by Someday to make sure he can go into these fights with complete impunity, not worry at all about his own safety, just put himself on top of Doublelift and Bjerg and cause all that disruption that he's been doing so well this game.
Yeah, and I think the draft has just been fantastic from Dignitas. Like, big props to Cop and the team because I feel like they got the Maokai very early, they got the Callista, and then they were able to do pretty much a huge shutdown on that mid lane. And I think that's big because when you play against TSM, you always think about trying to control Bjergsen and trying to force him onto something that can't really take over the game as easily. And because he did select the Xerath here, they have a lot of tools to deal with that. I don't feel like he's been able to get off 4 or 5 shots in a row here with his Rite of the Arcane in the last few fights.
He's got one more level to go before getting that final level and the ability to give him that 5th shot. But we've seen multiple fights where he gets interrupted. We've seen multiple times where he just cannot utilize the range to an extreme enough degree to make up for how behind his team is. But Dignitas still has a Nexus to kill. A game of League is not over until that condition is met. So they got to make sure they keep it strong all the way to the finish line.
Yeah, I also like what Someday was doing, just a random aside for item builds here. People were talking about Thornmail being OP. I actually just think it's Bramble Vest. Spend 900 gold on Bramble Vest Tabi, 2,000 gold total there as your first few items. And you shut down most 80 characters in the game early, and then you can buy your Righteous Glory, your Mad Resistance. Yeah, just
Every time. Without fail.
I don't think he's failed that once so far.
Nope.
So really well played there, but yes, just sit on the Bramble Vest. It's not so much Thornmail, it's more the other part. They're trying to make sure he can't get to the Lantern.
Seeing if they can stop him, but they're taking a lot of damage over the wall. Bjergsen providing this covering fire. Spin a little bit more distance will get him to safety, but he's so low. Baron is live. Dignitas recognizes this. The enemy jungler is out of commission.
Yeah, and you can see Shrimp went for the sweep, trying to make sure there's nothing in the Baron pit. But right now, they don't have Maokai ultimate. I feel like they're going to try this and force it, but they don't have the same tools as they would have, but they forced Svenskeren back. So it's Rend and Smite versus pretty much just damage abilities here.
It's going to go really good or really bad. Miasma down, zone TSM away. The Smite comes through. The Rind's what takes it. Hanser now going to be soaking the damage Someday as well. Hanser getting himself away with the Lantern. Dignitas in retreat.
This is good for
TSM. Bjergsen firing off the shot. Keen going to be soaking the damage. Hanser grabbing the first kill of that fight as Maokai will now be cut down second. Make it Blitzcrank. Maokai barely hopping away instead.
Slow.
Continuing the chase. The slow comes down. Over the wall goes Trist. Shrimp somehow still alive, but the auto attacks come in. The crits are down, and the shutdown for Doublelift.
That's what TSM needed to get back into it. The Baron goes over to Dig, but they get the resulting fight. Now only 2 members of Dignitas limp away with that buff.
Dignitas thought that they were ahead enough to force that, but the range of TSM finally comes into play.
Yeah, as soon as that fight, I called it right there, where Maokai doesn't have ultimate, they have to get it and get out, but TSM identified this is where they can take the fight, and it looked really good for them right off the bat.
Now catching Someday out, blowing his ultimate yet again, more stuns coming through, Exhaust is down, zoning Shrimp off at the same time, and Someday falls. He holds the line at the tier 2, but taking him out gives TSM the opportunity to get back and regroup.
Yeah, Mountain Drake will most likely go over to Dignitas, though. So TSM kind of lose Mountain Drake, lose Baron. They get 4 people, and now Shrimp is the only one who has that Baron left. But right here, this is the big thing for me, is that they're focusing down Hanser, who actually gets his Gargoyle Stoneplate off and gets out, and they traded that for damage on Someday, who couldn't get in. The hook lands, the Cataclysm actually kind of is perfect in this fight because Keen is kind of caught on the edge, everybody else trying to path around, and then Bjergsen, like I said, shooting snakes in a barrel, just keeps throwing the Rite of the Arcane on top of them, and that's exactly what this comp is built for here. And Shrimp has his flash, but ends up using it a little late, and the rest of the team got baited there because it gave Doublelift the confidence to go forward because he knows he's going to get some shots. He's going to get some static shiv hits there. And you can see that damage is just immense.
5,600, and Bjerg wasn't exactly being shy in that fight either. Nearly 4K from his Xerath.
Yeah.
These two, even though they're the only real damage threats on the side of TSM, I mean, yeah, the Jarvan's a bruiser, but that's not going to be destroying these tanks on the side of Dignitas.
Yeah, and like, Haunter
okay.
going in.
Haunter's going in, gets interrupted during the flag and drag combo.
He's far, though. He's far.
Haunter's so far separated from the rest of the team. The miasma is
ultimate coming through on him. They don't see it yet.
Coming in from behind. The cavalry has arrived. And a double kill for Alltech as Doublelift is now grounded out and shut down. Oh. Another kill for Shrimp as TSM makes a gross overestimation of their fighting ability.
And Doublelift played that as well as he could from that position. He W'd back, and then he ended up buster shotting Someday away, but the root just lasts so long that they're able to pick up more, and now they're going to go for that mid inhib and try to get that down again.
Thought about trying to chase down Bjergsen and Biofrost there, but you could almost just imagine the call if we can't catch him. If Bjergsen and Bio can't pull off a miracle defense here under one Nexus turret, Dignitas will take game one. They push this down so incredibly quickly. They're not even concerned about the remaining TSM members. They'll burn down the Nexus itself. Bjergsen baiting Someday into the fountain with the laser, but it will not be enough, and Dignitas takes game one.
Dignitas, it's not just a fluke. Last week, they played incredibly well. Their CSD in the bottom lane was outstanding. And now we're looking at an Adrian Alltech bottom lane. Where's that tier list, Freak?
Where is that tier list, Freak? Where's your tier list at? Because these two were looking impressive. 7, 2, and 7 on the Kalista, 0, 3, and 12 on the Blitzcrank. And the Blitzcrank pick, something I want to point out, is it didn't look like it had a massive amount of impact because it's one of those champions where you just remember the crazy pulls and nothing else about him. But he had so many pulls onto Doublelift. Yeah. Doublelift just canceled every single one of them.
Yeah, but the thing is you get his rocket jump, you force him to play defensively, and that's during the lane phase. But later in the game, what Adrian got to do is because of the Kalista, and I can't emphasize this enough, that there's so many damn power picks right now in terms of what you can pick very early on in the draft. Maokai, Cho'Gath, Thresh, Kalista, Zac, Galio. It keeps going on and on that this right here was perfect for them, and they've gotten this Kalista so many times. They had it last week and beat Stixxay. They had it last week and beat Arrow in lane. Like, this is a very strong bottom lane that comes out on top more often than not in terms of just the champion pick. But then Adrian gets to go forward, be a doofus, do whatever he wants, look for the hook, be really dumb in terms of his positioning, and then Fate's Call will save him, and then he gets to re-engage. Because the thing is, they spent so many resources to get the Blitzcrank low multiple times, but then Fate's Call, immunity, pulls him back, and then everybody waits. And Adrian held it. There were a few fights where he just held it there, waiting to come back out, because he treated it almost like a Zhonya's in a way.
Walk up, draw the aggro, make them waste resources, then after the Fate's Call, you fire off the hook. But for more on that victory, let's send it over to Dash and Mark.
A-Ram.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. Big win out of Dignitas here over one of our first-place teams in TSM to kick off the series. In talking about this game, though, let's go ahead and take a look at Champion Select because we saw a lot of mid-lane focus in terms of bans as well as picks.
Oh, there's a lot of us.
You know what? This is better. Let's just keep it on
keep that one up there. Oh, there we go.
So boring. All right. No, here we go. Champion Select for Dignitas, as was mentioned just a moment ago. Lots of focus towards that mid lane in 2 first phase bans, 2 second phase bans, and a takeaway in the first phase here in the mid lane.
Worth noting as well that they get the Maokai in there as well. So you have the frontline victory in terms of just, no, you're going to have the best tank probably in the game at this point behind maybe Zac, you could say.
Right.
And, you know, TSM's comp, I like what they did with it just because with so many mid lane bans, we were talking about what else could, you know, Bjergsen play. Maybe a Victor would have worked out well just because that is good at melting frontline. But I did like what they went with here just because with so many tanks in the meta, it's hard to chew through those front lines. And, you know, TSM go, well, let's just sidestep that issue. We'll just try and blow up your back line.
Go over your back.
You heard Zyrene keep dropping the line, shooting snakes in a barrel. That's what they're going for here. They just want to open up on the back line, kill them, and then it doesn't matter if Maokai's alive. And they did execute this a couple of times here. A big mid lane focus with Svenskeren and Haunter both roaming in. They blow them up right away. This one does get punished a little bit because they're on the back foot, but you see them continue to go for this idea here. Alltech getting hit and CC'd by the tank while Bjergsen snipes away freely from the backside.
To me, that's a perfect example, right? Because you had 2 tank frontliners duking it out, but the CC lands on the Kalista. It allows Bjergsen, under the safety of his own turret, to help zero him out. They win the fight as a result. However, you have to be able to keep the Xerath safe safe rather, in order to make this effective. We saw multiple occasions in which Dignitas, responding to skirmish situations, particularly in the bot lane, opening up on Bjergsen, who found himself in an unsafe position.
That was a big problem, as well as the fact that the opposing mid laners of Cassiopeia, arguably the strongest, mage at burning frontline down. So it starts off with this 2v2 going in the bot lane after Adrian misses his hook, and there's no ultimate available for the Kalista. This is the perfect time to go aggressive.
The mid laners are already on their way.
Right, and both mid laners are roaming down. This should favor TSM hypothetically because you see, Bjergsen can just throw his damage in from afar. But he opens this up in a very unsafe spot, and because Keen's following, he gets the flash stun follow-up. Shrimp targets him down as well. They blow up Bjergsen, and now that backline kind of artillery cannon is down at the very start of the fight.
And the chase potential of Cassiopeia, along with her absurdly high DPS, comes through to finish off a few more kills. Double kill goes over to Keen there. That's going to put him well out in front of Bjergsen for the remainder of the game in terms of the gold lead.
And that's the big thing, is that Keen was actually had a small CS lead on his own just in the 1v1 matchup. Cassio is probably a little bit stronger early on. It's been a while since we saw Xerath Cassio. But Xerath generally is, I get better as I go later because I get more spammable and I outrange you and I just poke you out of lane.
Right.
But he did get the advantage early. They win this skirmish early as well, and that kind of puts Keen in the position where he's able to be the primary focus of both teams, where Dignitas wants him to stay alive and burn stuff down. TSM wants to solo him out.
Yeah, we see that come 18 minutes into the game in the mid lane. Keen will barely live through this engagement while Bjergsen is doing his damnedest to bring him down.
And this is going to be a dragon skirmish. Keen's off on the backside. You see TSM instantly go, get the snake! And they all start jumping on Keen. Nice ultimate here. Really good job getting this damage out. Starts getting focused down, gets stunned up a couple times, and Bjergsen starts throwing his damage down, but he thinks that last shot's probably going to be enough to finish him, starts refocusing down on the Shrimp. Keen's able to get out alive, and there you see the frontline focus of Dignitas just having better tools for killing them, as well as better frontline.
Again, that's what you notice, is that because the Xerath is dumping resources into attacking the back line of Team Dignitas, it means that his own front line is being melted by Altec on that Kalista. As soon as his tank line goes down, Someday can roll through and lead the charge for the remainder of Dignitas to pick up those kills.
That's the big thing, as well as the fact that, the Graves pick is one that has been talked about a little bit. We saw Blade of the Rune King first, which is a little bit surprising, but we have some health stacking on the side of the Jarvan. Sejuani's first item is Cinder Hulk for the most part, so you're going to have a lot of health. The Blade of the Rune King makes sense there, and then you do have an extra DPS threat. So as, Bjergsen's sniping away at the back line, you just have Graves free hitting the other team's front line.
So I just want to put a closer here on the Xerath pick in particular and recognize that we believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we believe it was an intelligent decision by TSM based on the options available to them in terms of a strategic decision. Yes, it didn't work out in execution, but when you're faced with 5 bans and only a few more mid lane options, this actually isn't a horrible choice.
No, it wasn't a horrible choice at all. They're, relatively immobile with the Cassiopeia. The problem was, right now in the tank meta, when tanks start getting ahead off early leads, it becomes very difficult to deal with them. And that's kind of what happened with that early skirmish victory. Dignitas got the lead, and though the fights were very, very close, it basically came down to the fact that they had the gold lead already and they could snowball through the fights.
And now I want to talk about one final thing with Dignitas, which is their play around Baron. We spoke about it at the beginning of the day. Picks like Cho'Gath, Nunu, and Kalista are going to come up huge for this team. But beyond that, you have to understand how to play around those picks. And Someday illustrates a very pure understanding of how to play a tank around a global objective.
Some other teams might take notes on how to use that one. Stack up the Kalista
over.
And then you use the Maokai ultimate to keep them out of it. Kalista gets the Rend, and then you turn after. And it was just very clean play. It was also another great Cassiopeia ultimate out of Keen hitting, double up there, and they get the kill. And there you see, a pretty dominant game out of them. There are some dips, but that's going to happen against a team like TSM. They're going to throw their counter punches, and despite that, Dignitas was still able to end the game.
As long as we're trending positive in terms of that gold lead, we're doing a good job. So for Dignitas, getting that first victory, Altec will actually pick up player of the game. We talked a lot about the mid lane focus, but when you're looking at the damage dealt, who's carrying the fights while Keen is pulling focus, Altec was there, got crucial Baron secures as well.
I mean, that's the big thing, is that as much focus as Keen kind of had in a lot of these replays, it was, it's supposed to be the highest damage mage in the mid lane. It's actually one of the lower damage AD carries with the most damage. The fact that he is unfocused in a lot of these fights allows him to stack up all those big Ren, pulls onto the front line, kills them, then they keep going through the fight, as well as Zyrene was pointing out, being able to save Blitzcrank numerous times.
I have to assume here going into pick ban phase for game 2 that TSM will likely early pick a mid laner this time around just to get something for Bjergsen that's more impactful from a power perspective, let alone a counter perspective, because on blue side, Dig could choose to throw a similar set of bans out and just pigeonhole them onto a same situation.
It's a weird, kind of change with the 10 ban system is that blue side now on the first ban phase is free to ban out those mid laners, but what ends up happening is that through the first actual pick phase, you can take a mid laner last and then ban out its 2 biggest counters, so you're able to kind of blind pick it safer.
Right.
So even though, with Dignitas moving over to blue side, you'd say, oh great, they can repeat this strategy and throw a lot of mid lane bans. Well, they can, but now TSM can do what Dignitas did, which is take the Cassio and then ban out some of its counters.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break before round 2 of Team Dignitas versus TSM. As we go to commercial, here's a track off Pentakill 2. And for more information on the new album, stay tuned at pentakill.leagueoflegends.com. Enjoy.